And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone you're in. Alright guys, this is not a walkthrough, and this is definitely not a playthrough. They're literally the same thing in terms of the concept, but you know what? I wanted to do something different, and I was feeling pretty chill, and after finishing the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth demo, as much as we could do on it, I decided to just go over theories, like I did in Final Fantasy VII Remake. So, if you don't want to hear a grown man talk about just basically Final Fantasy theories, well, you're not in the right spot. But if you're a Final Fantasy VII fan, or just a Final Fantasy fan in general, you might actually like this. So, I'm going to talk about theories that what could possibly happen in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because I was just looking in Google, and I just decided, hey, you know, there are early reviews of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Like, I might as well talk about that, just to kind of get started. And I figure, hey, why not? I mean, the game is coming out, I guess, a week from today. Crazy. Man, I can't believe we're right here. I can't believe we're here. But here we are. My gosh, the reviews are pouring in. Alright, well, let's talk about the important things. The Metacritic is giving Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, just from what the reviewers, you know, like GameSpot, IGN, Eurogamer, pretty much Games Radar Plus, Push Square, I like to look at them too. But, you know, all those heavy, Destructoid, just naming a few. But they already gave... Man, that music's gorgeous. That music's so gorgeous. Sorry, it just brings nostalgic. Anyway, so Metacritic is 93% of 100, which is pretty freaking great. Because I know Baldur's Gate 3 had a high score in Metacritic. But just because Metacritic is giving it a high score doesn't mean that the game is just flawless and you have to absolutely buy it. Oh no, I imagine the game has flaws. We don't know what the flaws are yet. And then Open Critic is given 100%. Take it as you will. Alright, and just because I actually did a little bit of research, Reddit is saying that the game has also been all but confirmed to end at the Forgotten Capital, which that's a big deal. That is a big deal. That is a big deal. And, okay, so, just because you're watching my Final Fantasy VII Rebirth theories, guess what? There is going to be some major spoilers. There's going to be major spoilers for the original Final Fantasy VII, and a little bit of Event Children. So, if you don't want to get spoiled, absolutely, play the original Final Fantasy VII. If you already have played the original Final Fantasy VII, then, yeah, there's going to be some spoilers for anybody who hasn't played the original Final Fantasy VII or Remake. So, you've been warned. That's another thing. So, how far does Final Fantasy VII Rebirth go? To give you more specifics, in terms of looking at Wikipedia, Rebirth will span the events from Leaving Midgar. That's pretty much original Final Fantasy VII Disc 1. Well, no. Original Final Fantasy VII... The original Final Fantasy VII Disc 1, and spoilers, because the original Final Fantasy VII in the PS1 day had 3 discs. You pretty much, Disc 1 was Midgar, leaving Midgar, and getting to the Forgotten Capital, which is kind of interesting that Remake split that in a sense 2 parts. You officially leave Midgar on Final Fantasy VII Remake. This is spoiler territory, and in a sense, if Remake was going to just, you know, pretty much be straight up Final Fantasy VII, just going to be, like, officially just follow it to a T, the original Final Fantasy VII, it would have ended in Forgotten Capital. I find that interesting that they deviated from it. Not only does Zack Fair live, which is a major spoiler, Zack Fair was supposed to die. Whoever's played Crisis Core Reunion or the original Crisis Core on PSP, Zack Fair was supposed to straight up die. He was supposed to straight up die, and we'll call that the original timeline, original Final Fantasy VII. Cloud was supposed to go with his crew, and Aerith was supposed to die in the original timeline. Zack, straight up dead. Should have been straight up dead. Zack was killed, obviously by the Shinra soldiers. This is before the original Final Fantasy VII. Is it convoluted? Yeah, I bet it is. But Zack was supposed to be dead. The fact that Final Fantasy VII Remake says, nah, Zack is still alive. What? And also, Biggs is alive. What? Yeah, that was shocking to me too, in the original Final Fantasy VII Remake. Or the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Man, I'm getting confused now. Well, anyway, it's convoluted now. But yeah, it's just the fact that Zack and Biggs are alive, and my theory is we are in an alternate timeline. The fact is, we could play theoretically as Zack. I think we can play as Zack. The fact that we can play as Sephiroth in the flashback is interesting, but it makes sense narratively of why we're playing Sephiroth in terms of flashback. Could we possibly be playing as Sephiroth towards the ending? Strong possibility. We could be playing as Sephiroth. We could be playing as Sephiroth, like I said, maybe in my remake theory about Rebirth. We could be playing as Sephiroth towards the end, or better yet, we could be playing as Zack. Why else would they basically show us a screenshot in my Part 5 demo of Cloud and Tifa be on the left and Aerith and Zack be on the right? It's like we have to have like a multiple choice, and it's going to be interesting how they execute it. I think we're going to have some dialogue choices, very strong dialogue choices that will basically, because why else would they end it in the Forgotten Capital? Why else would they show us some heavy story spoilers? Because people who played the original Final Fantasy VII know the significance about Forgotten Capital. This is spoiler. Aerith freaking dies at the Forgotten Capital because Sephiroth does the iconic shot of killing her. I'm sorry if that's a spoiler, but if you haven't played the original Final Fantasy VII, you're in the wrong spot. You're in dude, or dudette. You are basically in the wrong spot. You're in the wrong spot. Because these yeah, they, in a sense, they spoiled the original Final Fantasy VII, but they want you to play they encourage you to play the original Final Fantasy VII to kind of get those wicked nods and references, because they are remaking Final Fantasy VII, and it makes total sense of why they're doing it. It makes sense why they're doing the Forgotten Capital as the ending. There's going to be a major character death. I think it's either going to be Tifa or Aerith. Those are strong possibilities. I don't see Barrett, Yuffie, Vincent, or Sid, or just like any side characters, people who just get introduced in Rebirth, like Vincent or Sid. They're untouchable. I think they got plot armor because they were just introduced. The people who I straight up think they were dying is Aerith because of that ending closing shot when we got one trailer of Aerith just doing her iconic prayer. That's a possibility. Or it could be straight up Tifa, because the way that Cloud looks like he was being controlled by Genova, that's a strong possibility too. It's just that I've been seeing reviews that the ending is not going to be executed well. That's the negative in some of the reviews I've been reading. Like, the ending is not... it's convoluted and it doesn't make sense. Well, that's... I can see why that could be a negative, because it's going to be hard, because they're deviating from the original Final Fantasy VII. And if they don't explain what's the significance of it, yeah, it's going to pretty much confuse the hell out of us. But maybe there's a reason why there's the third game. It's a trilogy, because the third game addresses why the second ending, the game, or Rebirth had to end that way, because it adds to pretty much whatever the third one's going to be called. Because Remake, Rebirth, it could be something with Aerith. It could make sense when the game ends in Rebirth. It could be something dealing with Aerith, or Revitalize, or something that... Reunion. You know, it would be fitting if they call it Final Fantasy VII Reunion. If I'm right, man, that would be crazy. I would be shouting if I'm right. Final Fantasy VII Reunion, it would make sense they call it Final Fantasy VII Reunion. I can't watch the third trailer, or the pretty much the third game trailer, because that would be spoiler of Rebirth. Because Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, when it was first announced, it was major spoilers to Remake. I'm glad I finished it before I watched it. Just saying. What more can I say? So, okay, major character deaths, dying, like Aerith or Tifa, or strong possibilities. What are theories? Sephiroth winning, I already speculated that too. Playing as Zack, I also speculated that too. What other things can they do? Because in the Forgotten Capital, Aerith's major death, Sephiroth winning. Yeah, it makes sense Aerith died because we didn't see Aerith in the kind of like recent trailer. We haven't seen her, and it looked like Cloud was crying, like he straight up was crying. So it makes sense Aerith dying. But they can do a twofer. They can kill off Aerith and Tifa. But we saw Tifa towards the end too. That's a very strong theory too. What other theories can they do? I'm not sure. Because Cloud gets a black materia, but Sephiroth did say that, hey, Cloud, give me the black materia, which is a major big deal, and that's when Cloud goes into... he becomes a vegetable briefly, after he gets the black materia to Sephiroth. Major spoiler to original Final Fantasy VII! Sorry! But I feel like you guys will watch YouTube cutscenes of the original Final Fantasy VII. Major spoilers. Just the fact that he mentioned that way earlier, I feel... it's when we get to that mountain. I forgot the name of it. It's that mountain that is so significant. So, and that was on this too. So the major things you need to take away from this one is pretty much Sephiroth killing Rufus Shinra. That hasn't changed. Aerith's death was definitely on this one too. The black materia, I think that was mentioned either on end of this one or it was in this 2. I know it was in this 2. That's a fact. So black materia, major thing, major thing. Pretty much Cloud find out that he's a Genova clone, or he has Zack memories, but he's a Genova clone being controlled by Sephiroth. That was definitely this 2. Find out that Hojo is Sephiroth's dad. That's a major spoiler too. Well, Vincent knew Hojo and Lucrezia. If that gets addressed in this 2, they could deviate from that too. And then the ultimate weapon, Omega weapon, Ruby weapon is addressed in pretty much this 3. Creation that we saw in Remake briefly, and I should have known that. That could be, you know, the whole trilogy could end at the basically that final segment of like 7 seconds to decide. You know, 7 seconds to decide. Time for you, but what will you do with it? We'll see. That 7 seconds could be like 7 seconds to either choose Aerith or 7 seconds to choose Tifa. That could... or the 7 seconds could be for the last game. Like you have 7 seconds to decide. Do you want to follow the original timeline, or do you want to just go completely bonkers in the 3rd game? I always thought of what he meant by the 7 seconds, but we never got addressed. Maybe it could be pertaining to Rebirth, or it could be to the last game. Whatever they're going to call the last game, I think it's going to be brilliant. Yeah, that's my theories too. They could... I find that interesting that we encounter Yuffie in Junon instead in the forest in the kind of like first disc. So I find that interesting. They didn't deviate in terms of Nibelheim that we find Vincent. And the place that we find Sid, I don't think they're deviating too. I think maybe it's going to be slightly different. I don't know. I have so many theories. So many theories. I think the Sephiroth that we're fighting too, another theory, is the event children. Or maybe it's post-event children. He has all the knowledge of original Final Fantasy VII event children. The fact that he could deflect all the abilities of Cloud, Stride's abilities in the end of Remake is he's post-event children. How he survived, or his memory survived, pretty much post-event children is kind of fascinating. What else? What other theories do I have? I think Lucrezia will be mentioned. I think she'll be shown in a flashback because Vincent's there. The fact that we see Setsune is kind of interesting too. why is Cecily part of Cloud's storyline is kind of interesting, but she didn't die in Crisis Core. Well, that's why we got Crisis Core Reunion. Because they're technically in the, we'll call it the original, but now remake. So, either Zack Fair will be playable in this one, or he'll be playable in the third one. I think that's a strong possibility too. It's just the fact that Zack is just being introduced in the trailer so much. I think Biggs is going to either die in Rebirth, or he's going to die in the third one, just because of the original timeline. Yeah, so I don't know how they're going to address the kind of alternate timeline and the original timeline. Are they going to combine it, or are they going to just, like, converge? They're just going to have convergence. The original and the alternate timeline are going to combine. Okay, so guys, I think that's enough of my theories too. I am not going to watch any spoilers when the game officially comes out. There are going to be speedrunners. I know people are going to finish the main story. We're going to see the ending posted probably the day of the 29th or the day after. Well, if there are going to be tissues of people dying, please don't let me know who dies in the end of Rebirth. That's all I'm saying. I'm only making this theory a week before. That's all I'm going to say. So, in terms of my schedule, guys, I'm going to surprise you of what games I'm actually going to, I guess, do it. I'm just going to jump into the walkthrough and playthrough that I'm doing for today. Like I said, Friday's a no-go, Saturday's a no-go, Sunday is still going to be pretty much, I'm doing a game, I'm going to do a stream, but yeah, today I'm going to do a stream. I just don't know which game I'm going to do, it just depends on my mood. So of course you can leave a like, comment, or subscribe. What is your theories of who is going to pretty much die in Rebirth, or what's your theories of Final Fantasy VII? If it's not going to be Rebirth spoilers, then feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. And I guess I'll see you guys later tonight or whatever. Okay, have a good one.